Hi everybody, this is March 20th, 2025, and I've been posting these videos as part of a video journal to recover from the trauma of watching my little brother, Paul Kierans, 64, with Down syndrome, be locked up by the British Columbia New Democratic Party government for 588 days before he had some kind of brain trauma and died. So there's exciting news today that I've seen on the internet that it looks like Mark Carney, the person, I don't even know what to call him, who's been installed by the Liberal elite as the leader of their party, and supposedly the leader, who's never received a vote from any Canadian, and who's completely, abjectly unqualified on every possible metric, by every possible metric, other than being a member of the World Economic Forum elite, which actually works against him. But after 10 years of Trudeau Jr., it looks like we're going to get a chance to actually go to the polls and choose a leader at this very dangerous time in Canadian history. So I woke up this morning and I could see the top news story was that China, the Communist Party of China, had executed 4 Canadians, supposedly as for being involved in the drug trade. The story also reported that the Canadian diplomatic corps had objected to the execution, and I'm sure with legal standards, nothing. As I was saying, 4 Canadians were executed by the Communist Party of China in China yesterday against the insipid protests of the Canadian government, which doesn't even have a parliament. Parliament was prorogued or suspended by the evil infidel Castro's illegitimate son, Justin Trudeau, suspended Parliament almost 77 days ago, 11 weeks. And while Parliament was suspended, and we have this unelected, elitist creep with 3 passports. I call him 3 passport carnage. He has the passports of Canada, Ireland, and England. Now, if you've got a passport of Ireland and England, that means you have absolutely no loyalty to anyone at all, because Ireland was at war with England and had fought for 900 years to establish its independence, which it only obtained in 1922. So just over 100 years ago. Sorry, my internet just keeps on flickering on and off for some reason. But the big story is on Sunday, this coming Sunday, it looks like Mark Carney is going to dissolve Parliament, which isn't sitting anyways, and going to call an election for April, with the election date being April 28th or May 4th. I'm concerned that this election will be done digitally, like the one in British Columbia was finagled by David Eby, the illegitimate premier of British Columbia. He had, my understanding from door-to-door knocking and canvassing was that the Conservative Party of British Columbia was a shoo-in to win. And then with the digital vote count that nobody can check, there's no eyewitness to a digital vote count. You can't go in the black box of the elections BC computer and count votes as I've done my whole life as an election scrutineer. It's impossible to do a scrutiny of a digital election. So I really hope that this is not going to be a digital election, and that, like, if India, which now is the largest population on earth, is the country with the largest population on earth, if they can do their election in one day and count it in one day, Canada with 40 million should be able to. The number one election issue for me, and I know it's not for anybody else or very few other people, is Canada's execution of vulnerable and disabled people. Canada kills 20 plus people per day by lethal injection. It is done extrajudicially. There's no police or judicial oversight whatsoever of these so-called medical assistants in dying. And Canada has killed more than 60,000 Canadians, innocent, vulnerable, poor and disabled Canadians. They don't have to be sick. They don't have to be dying. And I'm so sick of people posting when I post these videos, they say, oh no, you don't understand. That's not what happens. Yeah, it is what happens. Google it. Let me Google that for you. It is what happens. Canada kills, but all that is necessary is the signature of the victim and any two medical practitioners. I know what is involved because I did divorces for 16 years, and 50% of divorces are rejected as being irregular, even if they're done by lawyers. So you can't tell me that 60,000 people have been killed dead. Innocent, vulnerable, poor, disabled people have been killed dead without there being any irregularity. So I Googled how does China execute people, and it used to shoot them, but now apparently it uses lethal injections, just like Canada. So although China killed 4 people yesterday, executed 4 Canadians yesterday, Canada executed more than 20 with this so-called medical assistance in dying. You do not want the state with all its power to be able to kill extrajudicially civilian citizens. I'm telling you, it is a recipe for disaster. It hasn't worked for 50,000 years, and it's not going to work now. We've always been able to kill people, and we didn't do it because that's what makes us human. Anyways, I just wanted to say that I've been up since 10 after 7 this morning writing. After my brother died, he was locked up by the BC government for 588 days with no visits from me, his last surviving family visitor in Greater Vancouver. And then I believe they killed him. They removed his oxygen mask, his ventilator, and sedated him to death, although he was struggling to survive. I could see that he was struggling to survive. He grabbed a book from my hand. He turned the pages perfectly. But he was an inconvenient person. And I believe that the medical staff at Burnaby Hospital removed Paul's oxygen mask and sedated him to death on April 23rd of 2024, right in front of my eyes. Can you imagine that? He was fighting to survive, to recover from whatever happened to him. They said he had a seizure. I saw that he had a wound on the side of his head that was oozing blood. But whatever happened, he was struggling to recover. And most people in this day and age do recover from seizures. But as soon as the person that was appointed by the BC government as my brother's guardian, a nun 4,000 kilometers away, as soon as she found out that I knew that her representation agreement over him was being investigated, he was dead within 24 hours. Within 24 hours of her finding out that the BC RCMP had reopened the investigation into her representation agreement over my brother. But the big news now, again, just to sum up, is that apparently that Mark Carney is going to call an election in Canada. And the only person that you should vote for is Pierre Poilievre. I wrote Pierre Poilievre, and he's the only federal politician who has ever responded to my requests or my inquiries. And I wrote him and I asked him if he was going to reverse. I emailed Pierre Poilievre and I asked him if he was going to reverse medical assistance in dying, and he said he wasn't going to reverse it. But the Liberals and the NDP, those eugenicists, they're going to expand it. The first thing they will do is expand it to kill incapable adults and children. That's the next on their... When people get into killing people, it's like Stephen King said, murder is like potato chips. You can't stop with just one. And once the state is allowed to kill its citizens extrajudicially, all bets are off. Why would they do anything to make our lives easier